One thing we've learned from reviewing all-inclusive resorts is that resorts can have great photos, thousands of good reviews, but they can still be disappointing. And when you're spending thousands on a Caribbean trip, that's pretty disappointing. So before we book any all-inclusive resort, we go through this same 6-step process every time. Now, this process isn't perfect, but it's helped us avoid a lot of resorts that looked amazing online, but not so great in person. And it's also helped us find amazing resorts that are actually worth the money. Step 1, the beach test. This is where we start every single time. Not the restaurants, not the rooms, but the beach. One mistake I think a lot of people make is relying too much on the resort photos. They can be very misleading and they get the perfect angle, perfect everything because it is marketing obviously on their website. So before we get excited, we check the satellite images. We're looking for how wide the beach is, whether the water looks swimmable, if there are rocky areas, how crowded neighboring resorts are, whether there's usable beach space. We also search review words like seaweed, sargassum. I'll be honest, I have no idea if I just said that correctly. Seaweed, sargassum, rocky, crowded. Search those terms for a little bit more in depth, because if we're flying all the way into the Caribbean, we want to know what we're getting into. So for example, at Curacao, we noticed when we were looking things up on the satellite view, it looked like there was a pretty small walking area on the beach. So we figured that out, and then for some people, that might be a make or break. For us, it personally wasn't, but we were definitely glad to realize that and know it prior to booking. But we did find out that the ocean was unswimmable. It was rocky and it was very, very rough waters. So we were also glad to figure that out prior to booking, because this helps weigh in on the decision. There's a lot of variables that go into a trip, and if you can minimize the inconveniences just a little bit, it makes it that much better. It also helped prepare for a little inconvenience like bringing water shoes, which actually helped our Curacao trip a lot. Step 2, the review test. This is probably the most important one, but also keep in mind it's the internet, so you do have to be careful what you read. I honestly don't spend much time focusing on the 5-star reviews or the 1-star reviews. We usually like to stick right in the middle because that gives a good understanding of the good and the bad of the resort, and it gives a fair evaluation of it all. We aren't looking for complaints, we're looking for patterns. If one person complains about the food, well, that's just one opinion. But if 20 people are complaining about the same thing, then the odds are that that's probably a consistent issue with that place, so keep that in mind. We're looking for reoccurring issues with food, service and staff, reservations, beach conditions, cleanliness. The goal isn't to find a perfect resort, but the goal is to figure out what the actual problems are gonna be. Step 3, the food test. This is where a lot of vacations are either won or they're lost. You'll probably end up eating like 20 times or so during your trip. So food matters, quality matters, and variety also matters. We don't just check how many restaurants a resort has, we actually look into what people are saying about the resorts and seeing what is consistently said about that resort. For example, is the buffet repetitive? Are reservations difficult? Is there decent food at certain times of the day? Is there a food truck available? Is there other carts or small places that you can go to around the resort during the day when all of the other big restaurants aren't open? Is there food late at night? Is there room service that you can order late at night if you do an event and you end up missing all of the dinners, or if you were out on an excursion or whatever the situation may be? Can you still order room service when you get back to your room? That's something also to know. Do multiple restaurants get positive feedback? If so, then odds are those are probably the top restaurants at the resort. One thing we've noticed when we've been reviewing resorts is there's usually about 10 restaurants or so that's advertised, but the reality is probably 1, 2, maybe 3 of them are actually like really, really good ones. And that's the kind of thing we want to know before booking. How many good restaurants is there? Does it have variety of food? What types of food? Everything like that. So those are the things we definitely want to know before booking. Step 4, the room test. The next thing we check is the room category. And this is a mistake I think a lot of travelers make. They compare resorts, but they also forget to compare the rooms. And there's a lot of different types of rooms that you need to take into account. We look at room location. How far is it from everything? Is it completely over secluded by a beach, or all the way on the opposite end of all the other amenities and you're gonna have to be walking a long distance every single time you go somewhere? What's the renovation status? What's the balcony size? Is there a tranquility tub out there? How much space do you have to actually enjoy the view that you're paying for? And what's the view type? Is it a swim up? Is it garden view? Is it ocean view? Is it ocean front? There's so many different options, so make sure to take that into account as well. And what's the bathroom setup? This one kind of lays under the radar. So for example, for us, our previous trip to Curacao, that bathroom was narrow. Anytime you had to take a number two, well, it felt pretty crammed in there. Not that that was a deal breaker for us, but that's also something to note. Sometimes the cheapest room is actually located in the most inconvenient areas. And spending a little bit more money, that can actually change your experience quite a bit. Step 5, the layout test. This is probably the most overlooked thing on the list. Some resorts are absolutely massive, huge, so many things to explore and so much walking area. They look incredible online. But once you're there, you realize that you're actually having to walk a lot more than you realize, and it makes it quite inconvenient, especially on the really, really hot days or the days that you're super tired. So for example, when we stayed at Royal Curacao, which by the way is an amazing resort, it is huge. There's so much to do. There's so many things that you can explore. But one of the things that we knew and found out before booking was, yes, it was a huge resort, but to negate that, they had bike stations everywhere, which was amazing. You could just pretty much pick up and drop off a bike anywhere you wanted to. And I will say there was challenging at times, but in that context, it was so nice because we didn't have to worry about when walking from one end of the resort all the way to the other, because it is quite a hike. So we check distance from the beach, distance from rooms to restaurants, whether transportation is required, how spread out everything is just overall. Because it is very important to know how much you're gonna be walking and how big the resort is, how many things there's gonna be to do, where your room is located, et cetera, et cetera. A resort can have amazing amenities, but if it becomes a chore when you're walking the entire time and you're exhausted, that takes away from the experience just a little bit. Step 6, the value test. This is the final filter, because at the end of the day, we're not looking for the most luxurious resort, we're just looking for the best value for our money. When we compare resorts, we ask ourselves 3 different things. Would we pay this price again? Would we recommend it to friends? And then obviously, would we come back again? If the answer is yes, that's usually a very good sign. Sometimes a $2,500 resort can be pretty comparable to a $5,000 resort. So that's why we always evaluate value separately. So before we book any Caribbean resort, we go through these 6 things: beach, reviews, food, rooms, layout, value. Honestly, this process has saved us from making some pretty expensive mistakes. So now I'm curious, what do you guys look at before booking a resort? Let me know in the comments, because I'm always curious to see what other travelers prioritize. We just got back from Curacao not too long ago, and then here in less than a month, we go to St. Lucia. So if you're into any type of all-inclusive resorts, resort reviews, couple travel, anything like that, please feel free to hit the sub button, because we cannot wait to show you what we have planned for these next few videos coming. If you made it to the end of the video, thank you so much for watching and much love. If you got any info from this video, please feel free to give it a thumbs up. Until next time.